the biggest misconception and be able to excel, not understanding that there's a lot of skill set that goes into the construction industry. $80,000 a year without having a college degree. It's because of, and that's one reason I want.
Is it for someone? Welcome to the TGW podcast, where strength meets purpose and every battle becomes the blueprint for greatness. I'm your host, Robert Attaway, and we don't just talk about success. We uncover the scars, the struggles, and the stories that forged them. This is the move, the motivation. It's a movement because greatness isn't giving, it's approved. Let's suit up, lean in, and let's go to war with the limits that try to hold us back. Now, we have today a special guest for me, a great friend. So I want to introduce him today. Romond, welcome to the show. Welcome to the TGW podcast. I'm really excited to have you on. Really excited to you to share the insights on, what you do and how that can help benefit people that's in the struggle or looking for transition today. So welcome aboard, man, and glad to have you here. And let's go, man. Let's go. So introduce yourself.
Hey, first of all, I'd like to say thank you for having me on your podcast. Big shout out to TGW Global. My name is Romond. I've been in the construction industry for over 10 years. And so a little bit about myself. Let me back up a little bit about myself. Romond went to University of Central Missouri, UCM, graduated and or majored in construction management. From there, was very fortunate enough to work for a large general contractor. They perform work throughout all 50 states. Had opportunity to work in Colorado on a project. Had opportunity to work in Maryland on a project. Had opportunity to work in Canada for 6 months on a project. And so I was pretty much a field engineer, just traveling with the company as needed, helping assisting on different projects. And so I did that for about 4 or 5 years. After a while, got tired of traveling, decided to move back home to my home state, which is Missouri. From there, I worked for a playground company, going to different schools, going to different states, building playgrounds. Did that for about a year, and now work for my current employer, the Builders. We are a non-for-profit. We specialize in apprenticeship programs. We specialize in training the workforce to be able to have the skill set to be an asset on the construction industry. And so now I'm on the educational side of construction. I don't build anything, but instead I work with students and I educate them on careers into the construction industry and just letting them know that they can be successful outside that traditional college pathway.
Okay, perfect. That interesting, field to be in, especially with this today. So I kind of want to jump into some questions that I had regarding just kind of help viewers to understand a little bit more about this construction skilled trade industry that you are involved in. My question for you is this: what is something that you feel like people misunderstand about careers in the construction industry?
No math. So each day is a different challenge. Each day is a different solution. And so you have to be fast paced in our industry. You got to be smart and be successful. You got to be able to understand how to blueprint, how to read the blueprints, how the project needs to flow, how you go about organizing supply lines, how to deal with multiple trades. And so it looks easy on the outside until you actually step inside our industry, and then you realize how smart our apprentices have to be in order to successfully put together a project.
When it comes down to, basic what you feel like has kept people from the opportunities that could have changed their life in this type of field, what do you feel like has kept people out from basically learning more about the skilled trade in the construction industry?
I think what has kept most people away from the construction industry is just that misconception, or I would say lack of awareness for as how construction is a career pathway. It's not a job. And so when we think of construction, we think of jobs, we think of anybody, but the lack of education, lack of awareness for as what it takes to be successful in our industry, I think have hurt us for as students graduating and not wanting to come into the construction industry because they don't see it as a career. And then what has kept most, or what has kept several students or people away from the construction industry is just that misconception for as anybody can do it. This is a low skill industry, it's blue collar work. And so just taking it a step back is the the school systems have failed a lot of us for as helping students get that exposure to the construction industry, helping us understand what construction is as a career pathway. And so for a long time, the message was go to college if you want to be successful, go to college if you want to have a career. And so due to that messaging, a lot of us have neglected the construction industry. And so also, a lot of us don't. A lot of us, our parents is not the construction area or realm, and so we don't necessarily get a chance to see physically how we go about putting together a project, the benefits of the construction industry. And so just miscommunication, the school system, and lack of awareness and exposure. The most important thing is exposure. And so the schools for several years have taken woodshop class out of schools, and they have taken the home economics out of schools. And so we have stopped learning how to work with our hands. We lost the value of seeing what it's like to be able to put together a project, put together a birdhouse or something like that, to be able to see that we enjoy working with our hands. And so it's a couple of different things that has worked against us as students, as adults, that have discouraged us from wanting to come into the construction industry and learning to see it as a career.
I think that's when you talk about that, Ramon. I think it makes me think about what I feel like in listening to you kind of break that down is the school system have caused where now there's not a lot of people who want to go work in that skilled trade. Maybe because they feel like it's not the cool work, it's not the sexy work, and but it's the work that's needed. It's the work that keeps this thing, the engine moving. When you talk about builder perspective and opportunities perspective, so because I feel like I've learned a lot about the construction industry from you, and working with staffing for construction industry as well. So so basically what I take what you're saying is that the school system, because they took those things out that used to be there, they've taken them out of the school system, which have caused the construction trade to not look as sexy, to not make more students aware of other opportunities that they could get into. And so, because of that, there's that lack of awareness, lack of information, which causes the gap. So, when it comes down to finding talent for your sake and what you do, finding the talent, finding the people knocking at your door, then you don't have as many people running to your door saying, "Hey, I want in, I want in." Is that correct? Would you say that?
Yes, absolutely. You're absolutely right. You hit the nail right on the head. And so with that lack of exposure, normally what they show on TV is construction workers out in the mud, working with the hammers in their hand in blue jeans, working in the sun. And it's an awful day when it comes to the average construction worker. But they never show the exciting part of the construction industry. They never try to make construction sexy for as understanding that the engineering side of construction, the drawings, they never show the estimation portion of construction, the accounting portion of construction. So they never show or they never really glamorize the other positions in construction for as marketing, our proposal team. They never show those positions. They always positions of we're going to be out in the field working in the mud, working in 100-degree weather. And so do this, we don't think of construction as a glamorous career, but there are so many positions in construction that are just as just as good as a white collar
Mm.
industry. For example, education, how you can start off in a field as an apprentice, working in the mud, working in the sun, working in 100-degree weather or the winter months, but then also working your way up the career ladder where now you're a
Mm.
superintendent. Now you're inside of the trailer. You're running your own work. You're managing the budget, the project. And then from there, graduating to a project manager. And then from there, now you have all these skill sets up under your belt as a project manager. And so with all your credentials and education, we don't want to lose that. So now you graduate to being an instructor. Now you're in a class. You're preparing the next apprentices and training them up the right way to be successful. And so they don't show like that complete career pathway that's possible in the construction industry. They just make it seem like it's a dead end job.
Yeah, because that's exactly what I feel like. Especially nowadays. Like you just said, a dead end job. That's why I wanted you on the podcast because for me, it's like, with so much happening in our market, so much happening where people being laid off, sometimes, people look for different opportunities, different avenues to chase. And if you don't know something, then how do you get there? If you're not aware of something, how do you get there? So I think that's why your information is critical and key to some people pivoting and saying, hey, you know what? I need to research this more. I need to reach out to, someone like Romond to find out, hey, how do I learn more, get more involved in an industry like this?
Yes.
When you talked about, the exciting part, I think that was really critical for a piece in this for you to talk about. When we talk about engineering, the engineering part, when you talk about the proposal team, the estimating, from the engineering side, can you talk a little bit about more about the engineering for people who might want to, pivot and go towards your engineering type for the construction? What does an engineer do in what your field?
The colleges, well, for the most part, the schools have done a great job of advocating for the engineers, the architectures, the project managers. They have done a great job of marketing for those positions. So as an engineer, you're probably going to have to go to college and have some type of degree, whether it's associates or bachelor's. It just depends on your level of experience out in the field. And so as an engineer, you'll be creating the blueprints. You will be putting together the you'll be on the design side of the construction industry, and you'll be putting together the blueprint and problem solving and coming up with the calculations as an engineer. And so it just depends on what type of engineer you are. There are several different types of engineers. You got the mechanical engineers, the electrical engineers, plumbing engineers. And so each trade have their own unique engineer or engineers. And so we've done a great job of highlighting the engineering career pathway, but we didn't do a good job of highlighting the apprenticeships or the apprentice career pathway. How you can start off with no experience and be out in the field, learning from a journeyman or a superintendent, and then working your way up to a journey person role. A journey person role is a role where now you're running a small crew, and then you're also running work on the project. And so we didn't do a good job of highlighting that specific career pathway or position as an apprentice. And so it's hard to take advantage of information that you don't know. And so that's why I'm so passionate about this role as outreach manager, is because I wish somebody would have came to my school, or I would have been able to set up a field trip to go to one of these construction companies to see how a project is ran from the inside, to see what it's like to be boots on the ground and still be considered a valuable employee or asset to the project. And so, due to lack of knowledge, we traditionally take that college route. And so that's why I'm so passionate for as going inside of the school district, the K through 12s, and educate students on apprenticeship program, hosting field trips so students can come down and get that hands-on exposure and do different construction related activities to plant those seeds in their mind, and hopefully that they can see construction as a career pathway. Because if I can do it again, I wish I would have learned a skilled trade and not just went strictly or straight to college.
Yeah, I think definitely. I think as you talk about that, Roman, I think it's something that I think we all have to decide, and get the education, the information to make those type of decisions, because so much is pushed at you to go to college, get a degree, and do those things. And still, yet, you get a lot of people who go to college, get a degree, come out, and they still don't never get into their field of work. A lot of people like that, where out in the world, they have a degree
Mm-hmm.
in something, but when you look at what they do, they don't operate in that degree field. So I think a lot of that is just, the lack of information on what other opportunities could be, you know, at their fingertips that they can have access to, where they can say, hey, maybe I'm just not ready to go to college yet. Maybe I want to go get a skilled trade and go that direction. And then maybe later on, they can build on that type of skill trade by going to school, getting an education, and so they're more likely to stay in that field of study than to venture out. When
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I feel like there might be a lot of people who are not really ready for the direction of where they really want to be. So I think that's why skilled trade route, especially nowadays, when you look at a lot of the layoffs and you look at a lot of things that's happening, a lot of the stress, people are stressed out because they don't know what they're going to do. But then it's like, well, you got skilled trades, so many that you have access to, that you could actually knock on the door and get in, based on the information that you receive, if that fits the circumstance situation.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that again, you breaking it down on why this is an important skill trade, and let me ask you this question as well. Uh, where do you see from what you do in a skilled trade the next 5, 10 years? Where do you see this kind of skilled trade going if you had to project? Is it something that's going to kind of tailor off, that's not going to be as value or important? Or do you see the continuation of the importance of this type of skilled trade being present and active in the market?
Yeah. Skilled trades, the projection of skilled trades or here to stay. The projection of skilled trades in the next 5 to 10 years. And what I mean by stay is it's in great demand, high demand. They're projecting in the next 5 years to keep up with the construction demand, we will need about 650,000 apprentices to keep up with the demand. And so when I say demand, these new data centers, these Facebook data center, Google data center, and a couple other large tech data centers, the Tesla data centers, they are requiring a lot of manpower, and we don't have enough apprentices to keep up with the demand. And so they have done research and have predicted that we need about 600,000 new apprentices in the next 5 years to keep up with the demand. And so the demand is definitely there. Skilled trade is here to stay. Anything that we do for as building it relates to construction, whether it's horizontal or civil. That's a form of construction. Whether it's vertical, that's a form of construction. And so, with the skilled trades, demand and supply. If the construction industry dies, then American dies. Everything
Mm,
revolves around construction. And so, yeah, we have AI that's coming. AI will be a assistant to the construction industry, but AI cannot replace picking up a pipe. AI cannot replace installing drywall. AI might can help us
mm,
for as coming up with estimates and help us with faster on the logistics side. Basically, AI will not
mm.
be able to replace of construction. And so the demand is here. Is we're the demand is here for as construction, but we don't have the
Right.
supply to keep up with the demand. And so as the data centers continue to grow, and as these tech industries tend to switch over to AI, is only going to get bigger. You know, the demand is only going to increase. And so I will say we United. I will say America have done a good job and starting to change the messaging of construction as a career pathway. And so now America is starting to fund pre-apprenticeship programs. They're starting to
Mm.
advertise and show construction as a career and not a job. And so the messaging is starting to change and it's starting to increase our supply line. And so I am starting to notice younger adults starting to come straight into the, or younger students starting to come directly into the skilled trade industry right after high school. Where at first, for several years, it was most students would tend to go to college first, and then when that doesn't work out, then they will circle back around and come to the construction industry. And
Yeah.
so I am noticing that the age number is starting to get lower when filling out the application. The average age number is starting to get lower, which is a good thing for the construction industry.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely good thing. I think as you mentioned, seeing that age number go down, I think is important. Because that's the next generation. As we keep them young, then we continue to see that thing to progress and move forward. As young people still sign up to jump into the skilled trade center. My question for you, Roman, is for the apprentices. I think it's important. I think people gonna want to know. I think people gonna want to. They're gonna want to ask that question: Is what's the average pay for someone coming in as an apprentice, and how long do you have to remain an apprentice?
So the average pay for an apprentice, it depends on which skill trade you're specializing in. And so in the construction industry, we have about 20 different skill trades. So it takes 20 different skill trades working together to put together a commercial project. For example, your roofers, your iron workers, your carpenters, like your electricians, your plumbers, your bricklayers, your cement masons, and several others. It takes all of those skilled trades personnel's working together to put together a project. And so, as an apprentice, on average, your starting wage is going to be anywhere from about $22 an hour to $25 an hour, just depending on which skilled trade you're interested in.
And is this with overtime? Would they get overtime?
This the $22 to $25 range is that's your take home pay without overtime.
Okay.
And so throughout the apprenticeship program, on average, it's a 4 year commitment. But don't let those 4 years scare you because if you was to go to college and get your bachelor's degree, That normally takes about 4 years. And so while going through the apprenticeship program doing these 4 years, we're training you to become a journey person. And so each year you're improving on your skill set. And then for every test you pass, you're also getting a pay increase.
Okay.
So that pay increase can be anywhere from $2 to $3 per year. And so as your skill set goes up or increases every year, we're also increasing your pay scale. And so after the fourth year of meeting all your classroom requirements, meeting all your meeting all your education requirements, meeting all your workforce hours, project requirements, well, now it's time for you to test out of the program as a journey person. So once you become a journey person, now you're making anywhere from $40 to $45 per hour, and
Mm,
that's not including any overtime.
right.
And so that's the goal is to become a journey person in your skill trade, because now you're considered a master in that
Mm,
in that
mm,
role and in that trade. And so the money is very good in the construction industry. We always have the ability to work overtime. If you don't mind traveling, it's a great opportunity to pick up on the bonuses. If we have to work on Saturdays, normally our traditional work hours is going to be Monday through Friday. It can be 8 hours a day, depending on the project. If we do 10 hours a day, if we do 10 hours, then we're going to work Monday through Thursday. If we have to work on Saturday, that's normally time and a half. And so that's how our apprentices in the construction industry is able to make $60,000 a year, $80,000 a year without having a college degree. It's because of they're getting paid a high wage for their skill set, and then also they're able to pick up on that overtime. And so the construction industry is the construction industry have changed my life financially, and that's one reason I wanted to major in construction, because I was aware of how much money you can make in the construction industry if you don't mind putting in those long hours. Some days is easier than others,
right. Right.
but
Yeah.
it comes with the territory.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's like again, um, through anything I feel like, when I listen, you talk about the 4 years, I'm glad, emphasize more about the 4 years, especially when you said don't let that scare you, because I know people see it, they think, man, 4 years, that's a no, I might as well go to school for that. But
Hmm.
understanding the skill that you're actually getting and you're utilizing that skill, kind of, I would say, like on the job training, you know,
Yes.
so help you and prepare you for, that journeyman, stage of your career once you get through the 4 years. So I love how
Yes.
you kind of broke that down.
Yeah.
Um,
And let me jump in real quick, Robert. When you say on the job training, that's exactly what it is. Throughout the 4 years, we're doing on the job training. 80% of the time, you're going to be on a project, working with your hands and tools,
mhm,
shadowing senior employees, and getting paid for your service. 20% of the time, or 2 days out of the month, you'll be coming down to one of our training facilities, and that's when you'll learn how to read your blueprints. You'll learn OSHA rules and regulations on how to work safe on a project, but then you also get to practice your skill trade in the lab area. And
okay.
so it's a 4 year commitment, and I like to tell students, look at it as if this is your bachelor's degree. This is your college program. And so we're really comparing apples to apples, for the time commitment that it's going to take to become a master in your skill trade.
Yeah. Yeah. Love that. Definitely love that. My next question for you, Ramon, is due to the unstable job market, a lot of layoffs, a lot of uncertainty, basically what you see, especially from the corporate white collar jobs, why do skilled trade careers offer more stability during the economic and uncertainty times?
With construction doing with during these uncertain times in America, the construction industry offer more stability because everything evolves around construction or real estate. In America, we're going to always be building.
Mm.
And so, due to we're going to always be building, some years we build way more projects than others, but we're going to always be continuing to build in America. That's how America, exists. And so, each project, the skilled trades industry is more stable during economic uncertainties is because of the amount of skill sets that's involved. It's not easy to replace an apprentice on a project due to the skill set. And so, even if one area, even if one state slows down, even if a project slows down in a specific area, you'll always have the ability to relocate. And so if you don't
Mm.
mind traveling with the work,
Yeah.
then you'll always be employed. And so you might have to leave your home state to stay gainful employed. But then once your home state start to open up and start back building, new projects, you can move back home. And so you
Right.
really have the chance to travel the world and see different parts of the United States for free. And so that's why
Mm.
it's so stable, is because you have the opportunity to take your skill set to a different state. And so you will always be considered valuable. And so it's not easy to replace your level of knowledge, your hands-on activities when it comes to the construction industry as an apprentice. And so each state built different projects. And so earlier I was talking about the data center. No one state by itself can build a 10 billion, a $5 billion data center. Those states have to reach out to other local states or other states in general in order to meet that demand. And
Okay.
so because of the demand, you'll always be able to find work when the economy is unstable as an apprentice.
Now, with that, when you talk about that, Ramon, is traveling. I'm sure like people are going to think, when we come down to traveling, is per diem with that traveling? Do they offer
Yes.
per diem? And if they do offer the per diem, from your experience, what's the average on the per diem you receive daily?
hmm And so, that's the beautiful thing about construction is anytime you work outside of your home state, that contractor will offer you per diem. Per diem is a fancy word for bonuses. And
Okay.
so they will give you a living allowance bonus for, it's just that, a living allowance. So you can have a place to stay, you a food allowance balance. And so any of those extra incentives or benefits is just extra money. And so that's why I like to travel, or that's what I did when I graduated. Immediately I hit the road and I start to travel and pick up on those per diem, or a fancy word for bonuses, so I could help pay off my student loans. And
Okay.
so that's how our employees are able to make $80,000 a year, $100,000 a year, is because they're picking up on those extra bonuses on top of their pay scale. And so the bonuses, it can vary according to the projects. Some
Okay.
projects might say, hey, we're going to cover your living allowance, we're going to provide the hotels and a place for you to stay, and we'll just give you some bonuses for as to provide for food costs. Some owners might say, hey, I'm gonna pay for your food costs and I'm gonna pay for your living costs,
Okay.
and I'm just gonna pay you extra for relocating. And all those bonuses, you can do whatever you like to do with that money. And so normally we'll move to a different location and we will team up with other employees that is working on that project, and we'll get a hotel room and we'll split everything in half and then just pocket the extra money. And so if you don't mind making those sacrifices in the beginning, then it's a great opportunity to bring some good money. And after a while, once you become a senior in your company, once you have that senior status and you get tired of traveling, now you can be more local. You can start to turn down some of the out of town work. You can
Okay.
spend more time with your family. And so it's totally up to that individual for as what they want their career to be like for as traveling. You don't necessarily have to travel, but it's recommended.
Okay. Let's see. My next question for you, Ramon, is how realistic is it for someone in the skilled trades to move from an hourly pay to six figures, or in a leadership or even business type ownership? What's the realistic chances of someone being able to do that?
Uh, the opportunities in the construction industry is unlimited. If you're an apprentice, to be able to go from an hourly position to a salary position, on average, should take you anywhere from 4 to 6 years, and those are real numbers. And so normally your first 4 years, first 5 years, you're going to be in an hourly position. You're going to be working on your skill set. You're going to be working on mastering your skill set, working on understanding how to manage a crew. After 5 years, now they're expecting you to be able to run a small project, be able to run a small crew, and still of the project. And so after that 4 or 5 years, now it's time for you to graduate and be into a salary position. So now we're talking about your superintendents. We're talking about your project managers. Normally as a superintendent, you're going to be grossing over $100,000 a year. As a project manager, a little bit or even more.
Okay.
And so within 4 to 6 years, you should be able to go from an hourly employee to a salary employee. And so that's how our system is set up. That's how it's set up is to allow you to grow with the company and move up the career ladder. You know, we don't want you to stay out in the field, and we don't want you to stay out in the field your whole career pathway. The goal is to get you trained and then have you move up to the next level. And then eventually we would like for you to take your skill set and then be able to train the next group of guys and girls that's coming through the program. We'd like for you to be able to train them with your experiences and your education.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely think that when you as you break that down as well, I feel like people, because people gonna want to know, how do I get from A to B? And I think sometimes in these industries, a lot of times people don't know how to. Yeah, I can get in here and get in this spot, but then how do I go from this level? Do I have to go lateral? Do I have to go, or can I go lateral and then vertical, or do I go strictly vertical? So from a career perspective. I think breaking down how people can kind of go from stages is important. I think people want to know that. Well, my experience is always, a lot of times people don't know. They get into a role and they're like, Robert, how do I get from this position as a laborer
Yeah,
to operation manager? And I feel like a lot of companies
yeah,
don't have that direct path, where, because I believe if you can see it, it's easy to believe, right? If you don't see that and you
uh-huh.
don't know what that path looks, just kind of how you gave the example of coming in as an apprentice, doing the 4 years, then going, passing your test, then going to a journeyman. I think that gives people the insight, and they can see, here's my path, here's what I can do, which is important, because people want to know. If you can see it, you can believe it. When you don't see it, I feel like it's a little bit hard to believe on direction.
Absolutely right. Companies want to see their employees grow. Companies want to see their employees move up the career ladder. And so now companies have their own in-house training programs that's designed to advance the employee career pathway. They also, a lot of companies offer tuition reimbursement, saying, hey, go to class, invest in yourself, earn some extra certifications, and we'll pretty much pay for it for free long as you finish the class with a C or higher. The companies pay for it. They'll give you tuition reimbursement. And so in this role, I never seen myself being on the educational side of construction. I thought I was going to always be out in the field, working my way up to a superintendent role or a project management role. And so there's a lot of roles that we don't really think about in the construction industry, but the roles are important in each field. If you're willing to put the work in, companies are willing to pay for you to advance through your career. They want to see you grow. They want to see you working with the career ladder. The more skill set you bring to the table, the more credentials, the more experience, the more valuable you are to the contractor. And so contractors don't mind paying for your value if you're a asset to the company. And so in the beginning, you gotta do the grunt work. You gotta learn the foundation. Once you get the foundation down, then you can grow. And companies love to see that.
Yeah, I think, and then also as you mentioned that, I think it's important for people to hear as well. Even myself, it's like you hear a lot of companies say they invest in their employees, say they want to invest, but when you really feel like an employee really want to see you, employer wants to see you move up. They want to see you actually
Mhm.
grow within that organizations. I always tell people, you hear a lot of employers say it, you don't always see it. But
Mhm.
when you find industries and organizations like the one you work for, and probably ones that is in that area and arena, to want to invest in their employees, to want to invest and see you grow, grow within the organization and provide opportunities for you to do that as well, then I think that's important. I think that's why it's important for especially this time in the marketplace today and what's happening across the board, is that's why skilled trade has to be the sexy thing. Maybe we was painted as not the sexy thing, but we are, because we're going to provide you an opportunity. We're going to provide you an increase in pay. We're going to provide you skills across the board, multiple skills that you can gain access to. And then it's limitless of the direction where you can go, as long as you're in the industry of the construction side. So I think that's important as well, that it gives people insight on awareness of something else different than where they are, instead of that fear. That's why I talk to a lot of people. I
Mhm.
feel like they're so scared of what's next. Am I going to get laid off? But people in construction industry where you align with you, they may not feel like that. They may not feel that type of pressure because they know that something has to be built. Something. So it's like, listen, I know that I'm pretty safe. And I think that's a really good feeling to go to bed with and wake up with in the morning, knowing that somebody got to build something and they got to
Mhm.
call on us to get it done. So to me, it's like, what better feeling that you get when you lay down at night knowing, I know I got a job tomorrow, or when I wake up, I know I'm not going to come in to say, hey, HR is in here. Can you come on in? That feeling of like your throat drops to your stomach because you know what time it is. So I think that's why it's important for people like you to share the information and insight on how this type of industry has built a life for you and can build a life for others as well, who's willing to pivot in their career and then join and learn more about the construction industry. Let's see. My last question for you today, Roman, is this. What three types of career paths would you recommend to say, hey, Rob, with no experience, no anything, and you're jumping in, you're going to become an apprentice. What direction would you? Here's three directions I think you should consider if I didn't know anything.
If a person that is interested in getting into the construction industry, a couple of things that I would recommend is let me take a step back. If you are interested in the construction industry, and you are in high school, I recommend that you definitely get into some type of VOTEC program or woodshop program. Take advantage of those career technical educational certifications while you're in high school, so you can gain some hands-on experience, so you can find out what you like as well as what you don't like. Going through those programs will help you discover who you are. It'll help you narrow down which career pathway you see yourself in once you graduate high school. And so that's what I like to leave for the students that are high school students that are going through their career pathway as a student, is get involved in VOTEC programs, woodshop programs, career technical educational programs. If you have graduated and you're 18 years or older, I recommend that if you don't have any experience, you can always, in the summertime, you can always volunteer to learn the basics of construction. For example, like Habitat Humanity is an organization that always are looking for volunteers. They're very flexible schedule wise, where you can come on the weekend, come on your off days and be able to volunteer and learn some of the basics, tools, tool safeties. Learn how a house needs to be put together. Also, volunteering at your local restores program. They're always looking for volunteers. They're always accepting donations. So you get to learn, how to sort materials and learn the terminology of the different materials. Also, now is a popular term for as apprenticeship programs. And so now that the government is starting to change the messages or the messages of construction, now there are several pre-apprenticeship programs that are working with students to help them gain some knowledge of the construction industry. And so going through a pre-apprenticeship program is just that. It's a pre-apprenticeship program. And so they're helping you understand the foundation. They're helping you with some basic skills for as math, understanding area, perimeter, fractions, understanding how you go about reading a tape measure. They're also is helping you get the advantage for as they are providing you with essential certifications. So these programs should be helping you earn your OSHA 10 certification, your forklift certification, CPR certification. So those certifications is going to give you an advantage when it's time for you to actually enroll into the actual apprenticeship program. And so the pre-apprenticeship programs are great opportunities or a great bridge to go through in order to actually get into the apprenticeship program. And so those are a couple of solutions, that I like to share. For as if you don't have any experience, that's fine. Our industry is willing to train, to help you earn or help you help you get up to speed so you can be an asset on our project. The pre apprenticeship program is going to help you out with your resume building. It's going to help you with mock interviews. We're going to give you that start that you need in order to actually get into the apprenticeship program. And so find a mentor, find somebody that is in the construction industry that is willing to show you, that's willing to help build up your network, that is willing to help introduce you to other partners that can potentially hire you, that can potentially hire you as a laborer.
Okay.
And so you can start building up those skill sets. And so don't feel like you're in this by yourself. There's an organization that is willing to help you out. And so it helps that the government is now advocating for the construction industry. We have government grants that will pay you to go through our program. And so a lot of these programs that I'm talking about is completely free. It's just you have to do your research and figure out which program is a good fit for you. And so pre-apprenticeship programs.
Tripping. Yeah, that definitely sound like a lot of good stuff that people would be able to have access to if they're willing to learn more. And I think that's important. Again, the same reason why I invited you to the TGW podcast, because I feel like listening to so many people with the market being so uncertain, with all the layoffs, with all the things, I felt like it was the right time to have you,
Mm-hmm.
because people I truly believe people are looking and scared enough. It's like that saying is, when you're scared enough and you're fearful of things, eventually it'll push you for change.
Mm-hmm.
Because you get tired of feeling that uncertainty feeling of not knowing what's going to happen. And then when it happens, the frustration of, people having home and just trying to provide today for their families. And you don't know, when you walk in your place of employer, you don't know if they're going to lay you off. You don't know if they're going to say, you don't know, every day you wake up, you don't know if it's your last day with that organization. And so that's why
Mm-hmm.
it's time for people to take ownership. It's time for people to take ownership of their careers and embark on maybe something different, in a pivoting perspective of saying, hey, I might need to go this skill trade route to protect my family and be able to provide better opportunities, where I can wake up and feel, hey, I don't have to worry about necessarily being laid off. Obviously, anything can happen, but the chances
Mm-hmm.
of that happening, so I
Yeah.
think this is important. I think this is important what you do, Ramon. I think it's important what you do daily, giving that feedback and information to, high school students on why skill trade is important, why developing that skill, and then on top of understanding, that yeah, it may take 4 years, but what's the difference from going to college? Because reality is you can get internships when you go to college, but it's probably going to look a lot different than skill trade. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you taking the time out of your day to give that insight, give that information. Again, I know it's going to help people. It's going to help people think differently. It's going to help people realize they have a way out. You're not stuck and having to wake up every day feeling like, I don't know what else I'm going to do. Ramon just provided you an outlet with information that you can research on your own time, and try to find out more information so that you can maybe go a different direction. One thing I have left for you, Ramon, is this: for people who will be watching, for people who will see the
Mm-hmm.
TGW podcast, leave them with something, Ramon, something that, whatever you want to say.
What I would like to leave with you all is it's not too late to get in our industry. In the construction industry, we're always accepting apprentices. We don't necessarily care so much. We're one of the most relaxed industry in the world for as background checks. So you have an opportunity. Don't feel like you're left out. You know, and it's okay if you uncertain for as career wise. One thing about the construction industry is if you have the right attitude, you're willing to show up on time, you're willing to learn, we will pour into you and help you out. We will get you on the right track so you can have a successful career pathway. I know that's what they did to me. I didn't necessarily know exactly which route I was going to take for as construction. I was thinking project manager. They realized my skill set will be more beneficial if you more or lean more toward the educational route. And so the goal is to just get started. Don't overthink the construction industry. Just jump in it. Find a company that's willing to pour into you. Learn the skill set. Even if you start off as a laborer, that's fine. At least you're gaining experience and getting experience up under your belt. If you don't like the way that company is treating, you can always transfer your skill to a different company. And so that's what I like to leave with the people. Construction is here to stay. Everything evolves around construction. Whether you're going horizontal, bridges, highways, railroads, that's all a form of construction. Whether you're going vertical, skyscrapers, airports, restaurants, residential, hotels,
Mhm.
apartment buildings. Everything evolves around construction. And so now the messaging have changed for construction. And so it's a great time to get into our industry. And not least but last, I'd like to thank Robert Attaway for inviting me on TGW podcast, giving me an opportunity to share my experience with you all, share my knowledge with you all, and then just giving me an opportunity to talk about the construction industry. If you're in Missouri and you're interested in construction, you can go to our website, www.builders with the S on the end, buildersagc.com. And you can reach out to me through email and I'll respond back to you if you're interested in getting into the construction industry and you're living in Missouri. And so I just like to say thank you all and turn it back over to Robert Attaway.
Thank you, Romond, for leaving those words of inspiration. I know that for a lot of people in today, it's going to help. It's going to help again bring insight to information they didn't have before, and they get to hear it from someone who works in the industry, been in the industry for a long time. But also break down the benefits and the sexiness to the industry on why you can actually have an opportunity to build a whole new career and be successful at it and financially be compensated at it. So that's the important thing. That's why we do these type of things here, because I'm sick of the uncertainty. I'm sick of people having to worry about so much about going to work and is that the last day. I want to be able to help assist people with information from people like Romond to bring this to the forefront, to know there is a way out, there is other opportunities that you can go knock on the door and the door will be open for you to receive you in and continue to allow you to be a contributor and an asset to the construction industry teams through across the board. The time is now, and it's up to you to take hold of it. Take the information that's been given today by Romond, all this good information, these golden nuggets that he's dropped today, for you to receive it and make a pivot if you choose to do so. The one thing I want to say is this: thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching the TGW podcast today with myself and Romond, who's doing a tremendous job in what he do daily with investing in students, providing information that will change people's lives and has changed people's lives as well. Thank you again for tuning in. I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. If it's meant to be, it's up to you. If not you, then who? If not now, then when? Feel the pain of change or feel the pain of remaining the same? Peace, and we out.